Spectre, in my humble opinion, is by far and away the best open world build that Thief has to offer. Not only can you grant yourself quickness and alacrity on top of a whole host of other boons, you also deal incredible damage, you're remarkably survivable, and you can solo all manner of difficult content in open world. So let's dive in with what has been my favourite build in Guild Wars 2 in quite a long time. Open World Condi Spectre. First up for our gear, we're going to be rocking a full set of Celestial gear in every slot with Ruins of the Trapper for extra condition damage. For weapons, we'll mainly be using Spear, but on swap you can have a Scepter and Dagger if you want a fully ranged option to switch to when you need it. For sigils, we're going to be running Sigil of Torment and Doom on our Spear for extra condition damage. It's important to note the poison stacks you apply whenever you swap weapons with Sigil of Doom also apply when you enter and exit Shadow Shroud, so even if you're camping Spear, you'll still get value from it. On Scepter Dagger, I like running Sigil of Torment and Sigil of Geomancy, which will apply bleeding whenever we swap to it. This is a nice sigil to run because it doesn't share a cooldown with Sigil of Doom, so what you can do after exiting Shadow Shroud and triggering Sigil of Doom on Spear, you can then immediately swap to Scepter and trigger Sigil of Geomancy on there for a nice extra burst of condition damage. For our relic, especially in open world, you want to be running Relic of the Chronomancer. This will grant you quickness whenever you use a well skill, not your allies, just on you. And with our trait setup, means you can grant yourself both quickness and alacrity on top of an absurd amount of other boons. For food, your best choice will be beef rendang for non-ascended food, or whatever version of cured meat flatbread you like. For utility, run Tuning Icicles. Now the main difference when you become a Spectre as the Thief is that your steel now gets replaced with Siphon, and you get access to Shadow Shroud, which functions very similar to any of the Necromancer shrouds you're all familiar with. So here you can build up Shadow Force, this bar above your skills, and as long as you have some, you can enter Shadow Shroud, use a new set of 5 skills, and when you take damage, it's your Shadow Force that takes the hit, not your health bar. Shroud 1 Haunt Shot is going to inflict torment on your target, and with our traits, it's going to grant might to yourself and nearby allies. Shroud 2 Grasping Shadows is going to inflict torment on your target as well as some cripple, and it's also going to remove conditions from yourself and nearby allies. Not to mention, it's also a blast finisher, and with our traits, it'll also grant ourselves and our team alacrity, and this is probably the most important skill you need to know about when you're in Shroud. Shroud 3 Dawn's Response will cause you to leap to the target area, grant barrier to yourself and your team, and will inflict fear on your target. It's a nice bit of extra CC, and with our traits it'll also grant protection. Shroud 4 Eternal Night will simply inflict some poison, weakness and chill, and you have an ally tethered, which is a particular Spectre mechanic. He'll also heal nearby allies. This is your next most important skill to use whenever you're in Shroud. Shroud 5 Mind Shock is a pretty loaded skill. It's a source of stability for yourself and your allies, it's a stun, and you'll also heal nearby allies. Not to mention, it's also a blast finisher. And with our traits, it's also going to grant ourselves and our allies Aegis. For our utility skills, due to running Relic of the Chronomancer, we're going to want to run as many wells as we comfortably can. Spectre well skills function a bit differently compared to other well skills in the game, in that these are ground targeted AoEs, which will cause you to teleport to your target location and then apply whatever effect they have around you. And it also gives you a good amount of mobility around whatever arena you find yourself in. You'll want to run Well of Gloom as your heal skill. It's a nice chunky heal, it heals over time and provides quickness because of Relic of the Chronomancer. Well of Sorrow is going to apply a ton of different conditions, namely torment, bleeding and poison at your target location. This is a really important source of damage, so it's a fairly high priority. Well of Bounty is one of the highest value skills you possibly have on Spectre. While not doing any damage, it's going to pulse an insane number of boons on yourself and your team. We're talking stability, 8 stacks of might, fury, vigor, regen. This is truly a monumental amount of boons. This skill is incredibly important, do not remove this. For our final utility slot, you can kind of change this to whatever you want. My personal favorite though is to run Haste, which is going to grant us quickness, fury and swiftness, and it's also a stun break for good measure. While we do get quickness from our wells when paired with Relic of the Chronomancer, this is going to give us a nice little buffer in terms of quickness and means we aren't entirely reliant on our wells to provide quickness. This also means we can freely swap out our elite skill to whatever we want, and we don't need to rely on using Shadowfall in order to upkeep quickness. So we can either run Thieves Guild if we want some extra damage, Basilisk Venom if we want some group break bar damage, or Shadowfall if we want another way to provide quickness to ourselves. And it's a nice way to group up mobs in open world. Feel free to swap out Haste to whatever you want though, it's really up to you. Now for our trait lines, we're going to be taking Deadly Arts, Trickery and Spectre. Deadly Ambition is going to give you some extra condition damage and let you inflict poison whenever you use a dual wield attack. It's going to be really important for your Scepter 3. Even the Odds is a specific trait change that I like to make for open world thief builds, where when you use your stealth skill, you're going to grant yourself 5 stacks of might as well as inflict 10 stacks of vulnerability on your target. This will make it so you're able to reach 25 might much faster, and the 10 stacks of vulnerability on your enemy equate to 10% extra damage. So this is a big overall damage boost, especially when you are solo. Potent Poison is basically just here to grant yourself a lot of extra poison damage and make your poisons more effective. Thrill the Crime is going to grant us might, fury, and swiftness, as well as to our allies whenever we steal. Bountiful Theft is going to steal boons from our target, grant ourselves and our allies vigor, and if our target has no boons, we're going to get some additional might. So once again, it's going to help us reach the might cap much faster, plus vigor is a nice thing to have. Deadly Ambush will make our steel apply bleeding and make our bleeding more effective. More bleeding is more damage, is more good. Second Opinion is going to convert some of our condition damage into healing power, which will also help our overall self-sustain. That's also going to grant us extra condition damage and give us extra condition damage on top of that when we are wielding a scepter. Traversing Dusk is a trait that I really enjoy. One, it's going to make all of our well skills heal us. We're running quite a few wells, so this is a good thing, but it's also going to grant us and our allies resistance. Resistance is incredibly handy and a very underrated boon to have access to. This is going to make it so you can completely ignore things like blind, chill, cripple, immobilize, a whole bunch of things that make your life much more inconvenient. Plus, the extra healing is great for keeping yourself alive. Now, for the final trait Inspector, I personally really like running Shade Step. This is because it's going to make it so whenever we use a Shroud skill, it's going to grant us extra boons or provide other useful effects. The main benefit of this is that our Shroud 2 will now grant us and our allies Alacrity, which while Alacrity isn't hugely beneficial to Thief in general because initiative isn't impacted by Alacrity, this will make it so all our utility skills and our Shroud skills recharge much faster. So this means that we have more boons through Well of Bounty, more quickness through using our wells, and it also makes it so we can maintain our might levels so much easier. Now for how to actually play Spectre. We're going to be spending most of our time on Spear. Now on Spear, you're going to use combinations of your 2, 3, and 4 skills, which include different lead attacks, follow-up attacks, and finishes to string together different combos and advance different combo chains. This sounds more complicated than it is. Your chain on your 2 skills is focused on Condi damage, your chain on your 3 skills is focused on power damage and granting yourself stealth. Now your Spear 4 skill is a CC, and if you use it after a finisher, it counts as a lead attack, so we can use it to start a combo, and it gives you a 10% damage buff for 10 seconds after you use it. Now to make this Spear work, we just need to learn one simple loop. Our general rotation will be 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 3, stealth attack, repeat. Here we're using the 2 skill lead attack and finisher, Mantis Sting and Falling Spider for their condition damage. We're using the 3 follow-up attack, Vampiric Slash for the damage and insane lifesteal. Spear 4, like we already mentioned, is here for the 10% damage modifier, and the 3 finisher skill, Shattering Assault, will remove boons, grant you stealth, and you then follow up with the stealth attack, Ashen Assault, which will inflict a bunch of condis and regen 4 initiative if you land all hits. This loop keeps you fully topped up on initiative, gives you a ton of lifesteal, and has evades and CC baked into your skills for free. What you're going to find is as long as you can execute this loop on Spear, you're going to deal a ton of damage and have monumental amounts of sustained healing and evades baked into your build for free. Give this a shot on some champion or group event bosses, you'll be pleasantly surprised at how insanely durable this is. Now if you want some more evidence as to how ridiculous this build actually is, here's some footage of me casually soloing Can from Ragewing 4. Scepter Dagger are here for a nice ranged option. Plus, due to the Spear loop we mentioned giving us functionally infinite initiative, what you can do before you go into Shadow Shroud is swap to Scepter Dagger, spam your Twilight combo, Scepter 3, until you drain your initiative, then pop into Shadow Shroud while your initiative regenerates. While in Shroud, I like to use Shroud 2 3 times for damage and to keep up Alacrity, and use Shroud 4 whenever it's off cooldown for extra damage. Due to the trait Shade Step, all your Shroud skills are going to give you a bunch of extra benefits and boons, so if you want some extra protection, you can use Shroud 3. If you need stability and Aegis, use Shroud 5, and spam Shroud 1 whenever you've got nothing else to do. After 3 Shroud 2s, I like to exit Shroud, and then go about my business on Spear or Scepter Dagger. So at the end of the day, you're basically going to sit on Spear, especially if you're under a lot of damage pressure because of all the sustained healing it has. And if you want a nice cushy ranged option, or you want to dump a bunch of initiative into your Scepter 3, then swap to Scepter Dagger. Outside that, basically go into Shroud off cooldown so you can give yourself Alacrity and a bunch of extra boons, and that's more or less it. And there we have it, open world Condi Spectre, my personal favourite open world build that Thief has to offer. With this build you have incredible personal survivability, fantastic damage, great boon output for both yourself and your team, and the ability to solo basically any content in open world PvE. Give this build a shot, you are not going to be disappointed. So go forth, take this build and make your open world dreams come true. And with that, I'll catch you all next time. Cheers.